Welcome back to a professional match of StarCraft 2. Now what I've got for you today is a best-of-3 series of professional SC2, a Zerg versus Protoss, where in game number 1 we find ourselves on Pillars of Gold. Now it's been a little while since I last casted a game featuring this Zerg player, and I've seen a couple comments over the course of the last month or so asking if I could please go ahead and cover a series of hers once again. So I figured it's about time to jump back into it. I'm a big fan of her playstyle as well, so we'll find out exactly what ends up going down in this particular match. Because spawning here in the top right-hand corner of the map and playing with the red Zerg drones from Canada, we have none other than Scarlett. Now, I've got a feeling, yep, she's going to try and go for the hatchery block over here. But it's not going to happen, huh? The drone was sent a little bit early, but indeed now she's going to see that the probe is going to be able to block that. Anyways, her opponent in the opposite corner, playing with the blue Protoss probes from South Korea. I genuinely do think that this person right here is one of the strongest Protoss players on the planet already, but he's still a little bit unknown. We'll talk about that a little bit more in just a second, because playing here with the blue Protoss probes, we have Zoun, or Zone, or Chown, or John, or Z-Dog. I mean, we can call him whatever we want. I know at some point when I first casted a game of his nickname was something like this. So I always kind of assumed it would be pronounced as Zone, but apparently that's not correct. Anyways, OU in Dutch would be pronounced as an owl, and it seems like most people are going with something along the lines of Zoun, so I'm not entirely sure. Either way, he is a very, very strong Protoss player. And actually, let me show you, okay? So here's the Aligalek graph from this particular Protoss player. So you can see that he's been playing since basically 2013 at a professional level. Then apparently he took a break back in, I think that's late 2016. And then apparently he picked the game back up in late 2019. So he didn't play the game for a while there, and all of a sudden, over the course of the last year or so, he's been looking very, very strong. Now, I know that some of you are looking at this graph and are like, Lowko, he's clearly a patch toss. Look, okay, he came back before any of the Protoss, buffs went live, and obviously it does help out if your race gets a little bit stronger over the course of that year, but there's no denying that Zoun has been looking very, very, very strong. So he already made it to the grand finals of the GSL Super Tournament back in January, where I believe he ended up losing against Trap, I want to say. Yeah, certainly was Trap. I mean, Trap, he's been winning a whole bunch of events. But there's no denying, though, that he is looking very strong. So if you don't have this Protoss on your radar just yet, at the very least, keep him in mind. Now, if you compare that graph real quick to Scarlett's, you can see that Scarlett, it seems like she's struggling a little bit more recently, right? So you can see, I mean, it's just not looking as good, I guess, as Zoun's. She did recently change teams, so she did join Shopify Rebellion, which is fantastic. Shopify, of course, a major company. They have a lot of money, so yeah, excited to see that they have decided to dabble into StarCraft 2 esports as well. I believe Bjorn is on that team, Lambo is on that team, and then Scarlett as well. So that's pretty neat, right? That we still get new teams in 2021 in StarCraft 2. Anyways, let us see exactly what ends up going down in this particular series. I don't really know exactly the playstyle that Scarlett has been going for recently. I know that Zoun in general has been playing a lot of macro-focused styles. So because of that, we're also going to be seeing that Stargate opener here. Definitely the bread and butter right now in this particular matchup. I mean, we still see Twilight Council openers. Most of the time that seems to lead towards Archon drops, right? So you can still do a little bit of pressure on the other side of the map and then still expand relatively safely. But it seems like the Stargate opener into more Stargate units is just simply a little bit better. Alrighty, so Void Ray is going to come out here. It will be able to kill that Overlord just fine. There's going to be an Oracle as a follow-up as well, which is nice for the harassment. But this is what I mean, right? So you can take your 4th base safely, using that Adept, using that Void Ray. You can deny some scouting time. And I mean, theoretically speaking, Zerg could commit a ton of Zerglings here to try and kill the 3rd base. But is that worth it, right? Because the Protoss is just going to end up canceling the 3rd and then plant it down again when the Zerglings are gone, when the Void Ray inevitably kills it. So anyways, I like the Oracle follow-up here as well. This is going to force out either more queens or spore crawlers. So it looks like, well, there's 3 queens over here. 1 spore crawler over in the natural. You know what? 1 spore is not quite going to be enough. Maybe Zoun can get a couple kills here. Let's see. Queen is now actually available too. Perfect timing actually there by Scarlett. I was doubting it for just a second, but no, none of that. Alright. So, 2nd Stargate now, even as a follow-up, nothing too crazy there either. You can still transition quite smoothly after this as well. After, say, like 4, 5, 6 Void Rays into, for example, a Robo and a Twilight. Now, I like this, actually. So one change that they made that we haven't really seen into effect very much until recently is the Revelation improvement, right? So a couple drone kills. So Revelation used to basically be twice as expensive and last twice as long. They've essentially halved the cost. This is back in August, though, so it's been a little while. But they've essentially halved the cost of the Revelation skill, but then also halved the duration. Meaning that you can throw it right there on a couple creep tumors and then kill them, right? You don't really need the 30 seconds or whatever that it was previously. You can just, yeah, kill it relatively easily. This is really nice. I love what Zoun is doing here. Okay, so one of the reasons why he's doing this, right, is because one of the counter builds that Zerks like to go for, and you know what, actually, maybe that's very well what's going on here. We're on 3 gases, no lair, just a whole load of roaches and a whole load of queens. Okay, yeah, this is what a lot of Zerk players have been going for recently, where they basically march these ladies towards the other side of the map. You just basically make a whole load of queens. I mean, in this particular case, there's 9 of them apparently in total, so a couple more will be joining in as well. You just send those over towards your opponent's 3rd base. There's not a whole lot available to defend just yet here for Zoun. No force fields either to try and slow this down. It's just going to be non-stop unit production here from Scarlett. She is going to add on additional queens as well, probably for queen injects at home. But she is looking to end this game right here, right now. You need to deal critical amounts of damage with this. If you don't kill at least the 3rd base, I don't think you're going to be in a particularly good spot. Now, obviously, on this map, it's relatively easy to get here. I love the fact, though, that a couple of those creep tumors were killed because it makes it all a lot better. That being said, I mean, that Void Ray took a lot of damage there. Super Battery has been activated, though, so the Battery Overcharge is going to make this a little bit easier. Still, though, I mean, you want to make sure you fight with the Void Rays, right? When you try and micro out of the Corrosive Biles, the Queens are going to continue chipping away at you, and it's a bit of a disaster. There are a couple of Photon Cannons set up here on the low ground as well. A few probes are already being killed here, too. Corrosive Biles are slowly connecting. Queens are still coming out in healthy numbers. We still see them being produced right here on the production tab as well, and I think that this position has been broken. I didn't think that that was going to happen, considering the fact that Zoun managed to, well, there's an Immortal as well. That's really nice. But considering Zoun managed to kill, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 creep tumors there. But apparently Scarlett was like, nah, I don't really care. I'm just going to march across instead. Anyways, Immortal here, very helpful. Shield Battery not available just yet in the natural here. So if that Immortal falls, that would be a bit of a disaster. Apparently, though, rather than going after the 3rd base, she's just going to march into the natural expansion instead. Void Rays slowly starting to run out. Yeah, I actually like this idea, right? There's not a whole lot of static defense available in this area. You just see at the minimap, there's like more and more units marching across. Scarlett is smelling blood in the water. Now, she does have a whole lot of minerals saved up here, right? There's not really a whole lot of gas available, so maybe a couple of mist injects here as well to make it harder to reinforce this with loads and loads of links. But I'm looking at this, and I think the damage has already been done. We're only at 40 probes right now, and even if the Protoss here manages to hold on, which he may very well be able to do, I think their best option from there is just to go for an all-in. But I mean, an all-in off of 39 probes against 3-base Zerg saturation? I don't think so. I think this is a Protoss here with a very slow death animation, okay? Maybe he could stabilize it, that would be nice. But I'm not entirely sure. Shield batteries are running out of energy right now as well. You can see that even though they are still available, that Void Ray just barely stays alive. I mean, power to Zoun here, though. He's doing a very good job defending this. But I mean, he just didn't have enough units, right? This is one of the vulnerabilities of going for that double Stargate opener. These kind of queen marches are absolutely lethal. Zerg can just simply get across the map relatively easily, bringing their strongest units, right, the queen, towards the other side. Usually they're meant as a defensive mechanism, right? To help out with the macro and to make sure you get some creep going and all that. But in this particular case, apparently Scarlett is going to use them offensively. Well, I mean, I can keep commentating this game, but if you look at the supply count right now, if you look at the worker count right now, you don't have to be particularly experienced with this game to know exactly the situation that we are in, right? Sure, the queens are derping on the ramp because they're kind of slow. Sure, battery overcharge is really nice to keep these 3 Protoss units alive. But I've got a feeling that this is just going to be a numbers game. Well, you got to give it to him, though, I guess, for sticking in it, right? Yeah, one of the things we see all the time is players leaving games early. This is the opposite of that. So I don't actually know if Scarlett scouted there that her opponent decided to go for a double Stargate approach. I'm pretty sure she committed to this push before knowing that it was a double Stargate, although You can kind of tell by the amount of Void Rays at certain points in the game. Like if you see, for example, 3 Void Rays, it's very likely that your opponent is going to go double Stargate. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be. But when there's smoke, there's fire, right? Like usually, if you see 3 of them, there's going to be 4 very quickly as well. And 4 is really the dead giveaway that it's going to be a double Stargate play. Either way, we'll find out, I guess, right here on Gigantha if that is also... I like this a lot, man. Yeah, sending the probe early enough to block the natural is fantastic. Anyways, we'll find out right here as well if Zoun decides to go for a Stargate opener once more to see if Scarlett will go for a similar approach. So, by the way, when it comes to the different kinds of queen pushes, I've talked about this before, but I know not... Some of you don't watch every single one of my videos, right? That's crazy, I know. Some of you don't even follow me on social media. Did you know that, guys? I mean, you should check out my Twitter and my Instagram especially, man. It's at LowkoTV. I'm just saying. Anyways, since not every single one of you watches every single one of my videos, and I know I upload like 6 hours worth of content a week or so to my main channel, and then like, I don't know, 12 hours worth on my second channel or whatever. There's 3 different variations right now when it comes to the different kinds of queen-based pushes. So first off, there's the German taxi, right? This is a build developed by Lambo, where basically you taxi the queens inside of overlords towards the other side of the map, right? Very nice variant, but it seems like it's losing popularity because Protoss players have gotten very good at basically positioning their Void Rays at the right position at the right time. Like if they're just hanging out at the 3rd base, you can get the queens across pretty easily. But say, for example, your OVs are flying in this direction right over here, right? And then the Void Rays come in. That's a bit of a disaster because you can't pop out the queens anywhere. So it's losing popularity just because Protoss players have gotten much better at defending it. Secondly, there is the Warsaw Subway, which is a build order that was popularized by Mr. Elazer. He's from Poland, obviously. And, well, you may have already guessed that. And he basically started bringing the queens across inside of a... Ooh, gotta be a little bit careful here. Okay. He decided to bring the queens across inside of a Nidus network instead. So he would basically send the units in and then pop the Nidus network over here, for example, if Protoss takes their 3rd tier, and then, you know, you pop the units out. And then recently, the one that we've been seeing a lot is called the Soul Stroll. There we go. So obviously, this is the version that the Koreans have been playing, where basically you just march the queens. I gotta say, though, I'm a big fan of the way that the names of the build orders have been developing, okay? None of these lame 2-1-1s and 1-1-1s and, like... +1/+1 roach speed timing attacks. Like, those are lame build orders, okay? I've heard of, like, what was it again? The Elazer Gambit? Like, you know, I've heard of a bunch of different names for builds and strategies recently. I think chess has done it way better than us, okay? You have, like, the Vienna Gambit, right? And all the different kinds of openers in chess. I think we need to go into that direction with StarCraft. Either way, it is once again a Stargate opener. It is once again going to be a Void Ray opener here as well. So I'm expecting to see Void Ray... maybe into an Oracle here in just a second. We do see a couple of Adepts. So the Adepts actually, ooh, they're going to be able to shade into the natural. Queen, though, should be able to pick off that weakened Adept relatively easily. It takes 2 Adepts to one-shot drones. Oh, well, you need 2 of them, though. So, I mean, yeah. This is basically flawless defense so far here by the Canadian Zerg. Okay. 1 drone. Maybe this Adept is going to be able to go home. Anyways, the Void Ray gets scouted. And once again, the probe moves on over towards the 3rd base. 4-minute mark. I actually don't know why the pylon is so far apart. We used to see, like, a little nuke over there for the Adept to hang out in. Maybe Zerg players are just not making that many links anymore, so you don't really need to create that little nuke. Anyways, very similar opener right here. And once again, it is going to be a second Stargate here as well from our Protoss. Okay, so let's see. Is Scarlett gonna make any changes then, huh? She's been happily making a bunch of queens. So, when it comes to the different kinds of Protoss openers, even though Scarlett doesn't know exactly what's going on, she knows that it's a Stargate opener, obviously, right? And she saw the timing right there of the 3rd base. And those 2 things combined can already give you a lot of intel. Because, for example, if it would be a Stargate into, like... I don't know, an Adept push or something, the 3rd base would go down a little bit later. So, yeah, even though there's technically variety available right now for our Protoss, I would not be surprised at all if Scarlett already kind of knows exactly what it is she's going up against. She hasn't seen the second Stargate. It is going to be a fort right now as a follow-up. And then, I don't know if this Robo is quicker. It feels quicker to me, but maybe I'm wrong. We did see the Robo Bay as a follow-up last game from Zoun. So I think one of the more common follow-ups, actually, if you know your opponent is going to go for those queen-based pushes, or you assume they are, you can go into the Robo facility and then into the Robo Bay and start making disruptors, right? Obviously, you can theoretically split your queens against disruptors and purification novas, but realistically speaking, it's not really gonna happen. So if that ends up going down, I do like that idea a lot. Yeah, there's the Robo Bay. Okay. So Scarlett is just gonna go, I think, for 3-base saturation. So she's got the lair. She's got the Evo chamber. No, I don't think that this is gonna be a queen-based push. Yeah, the gases are a little bit late, though. Okay, so she's been sitting on 2 gases for a while and then takes 4 more gases all at once. Roach speed coming up as well. I mean, 67 drones is basically all you need for 3-base saturation, and then obviously you can take the 4th base, which puts you at a perfect amount of saturation as well. Yeah, so this is quite nice here for the Zerg. Okay, +1 missiles coming up. This is a little bit later, at the very least. If she wants to go for a queen push, this is going to be a little bit later than what we saw in the previous game. Notice as well, there's no more scouting here, right? I feel like that's one of the things, for example, that players like Raynor and especially Serral are extremely active in. They'll be sending overseers in right now for sure. But apparently Scarlett, like, because of that, I look at this. Okay, I was going to say, I look at this and I think she's already decided what she wants to go for, right? If you don't scout, it's usually because it doesn't matter. Like, it's not that she doesn't have the APM for it. She can easily scout here. But it makes me think that even, you know, she could scout. It doesn't really matter because she's already decided what she wants to be heading for. So it's going to be Swarm Host. Alrighty. I like it. Swarm Hosts are really strong. Especially if you have a Protoss player taking their 4th base over here. I mean, imagine the Swarm Hosts in this location. They can rain their Locust over to the 3rd, to the 4th base. They can even pop in the back and rain them into the main. One thing we see quite a bit with this as well is a Nidus network. Although, I've seen a bunch of Zerg players at the highest level recently change that out too, where they once again just ignore that and they just, yeah, opt for more units instead. So this is a whole load of queens, by the way. 13 queens! Huh. Is she living up to the nickname of Queen of Blades? Is that what we're going for here? Well, if you make that many, you have to push with them, right? Yeah. So, Queen Swarm Host. We're at 13 Swarm Hosts right now. A couple more are coming up. Roach, Ravager, Ling, I think as a follow-up as well. You can see she just exploded when it comes to the supply count. It's just that Disruptors are absolutely phenomenal against this sort of thing. Yeah, so this Disruptor balls don't mess around, huh? That being said, it all comes down to the Locust waves. I think defending the first one is really critical. Maybe with a pylon? No. Decent defense right here by Zoun. So generally speaking, if he goes up to 100 army supply, this is going to be held quite smoothly. So you can see the army supply at the bottom section of the screen. Oh my god! Those Disruptor Novas are insane. Alright, well, while the Locusts are on cooldown, right, it takes a little while. Scarlett is going to be very vulnerable. Extended thermal lens now as well coming up! Woo! Apparently it takes 2 Novas to kill these Swarm Hosts. I think that this is a very nice situation for Zoun to be in. Generally speaking, the Locusts are getting some work in. Okay, you know what? Woo, hold that thought. I thought that this was actually a really good situation for the Protoss, but right now a couple of the Locusts are starting to slip through the cracks. You blink twice, the 11 probes are gone. Generally speaking, defending the first 2 waves is all important when it comes to defending this sort of shenanigans. With the queens gone, though, the Void Rays are once again gonna have a field day, right? Yeah. I love that Zoun decided to go for this. Maybe he looked at this and he's like, she doesn't want to play the macro game against me. That's fine. Let me make some Disruptors, though, just to make sure that a ground-based army isn't gonna just overwhelm me. Alright, 4th base has been acquired. Zerglings are setting themselves up for a potential run-by towards the 3rd, but this is a nice little fortress that has been made here by Zoun, so no units are going to be able to move up that ramp. Love the fact that there's now a Colossus here as well. If there's one thing that Colossi are very good at, it's killing Zerglings, light units in general. There's the fleet beacon coming up. Yeah, so this is the way that Zoun likes to play, right? So he, generally speaking, just plays very macro-oriented. A lot of timing attacks as well. But he plays standard Protoss, right? And maybe some people look at that and think it's lame, but it's the most successful way of playing. Oh god, alright. Man, those Disruptors have been worth their weight in gold. Ridiculous. Well, there's the Nidus network. There's the Hive as well. Yeah, so this is some wonderful movement here as well by Zoun, by the way. So, moving far enough onto the creep to trigger all of those locusts, and then just backing off, right? So, while the locusts... Well, this is some nice sniping actually as well by Scarlett. While the locusts are on cooldown, this army is not nearly as strong from the Zerg. Once again, massive detonation over there. Yeah, good maneuvering here. And you can see that the army supply count is growing happily, right? So usually, at least in my experience, once that reaches 100, those locusts just don't do anything anymore. Unless they catch you off guard, obviously, but... A little bit of spring cleaning over here. It is that time of the year again. Nicely done. Well, we do have... Oh, 5 Disruptor kills. Okay, good snipe there as well, actually. With the Void Ray. Locusts, though, are going to be flying forward. Love the Zealot run by over here on the right side. Fantastic movement here once more by the Protoss. And I don't think that these... Yeah, these are not going to achieve very much at all. Roach Ravager army is moving forward. There's once again a couple Disruptors. Don't give them away for free! Oh, okay. She caught them, but yeah, that was not exactly what you wanted, huh? Anyway, still ends up taking a very massive detonation right there. Okay, so here come the Zealots. And this is so annoying as a Zerg player, right? So, essentially what you have to do is you need to respect these Zealots. You can't just let a couple reinforcing roaches deal with this. You need to send the majority of your army back to make sure you don't lose an entire mineral line worth. But this, once again, buys a lot of time for our lovely Protoss player. He's gonna go into carriers right now. +2 is already coming up instead of the Cybercore. Fantastic upgrade, especially when your opponent... I mean, if you want to defend this as Zerg, right, you have to go either... Good defense over here as well. You have to go either Corruptors, but Corruptors without armor upgrades against +2 carriers are a disaster. Or you have to go Hydras, but I don't really see a whole lot of those yet either. So, you can abduct them, obviously. Abduction is really nice, but I am liking this situation here for Zoun in pretty much every way. He's now crossed that magical 100 supply count for his army units. And yeah, that means that those Locusts are likely not going to be able to get much done. But very good patrolling here as well, right? Just making sure he's got control of the different spaces. The only area... Okay, I was just going to argue that. The only area that could be a bit of a problem is right up here. But, well, there we go. Storm as a follow-up. We're getting into the territory that lots of Protoss players like to be in, right? Loads of big units. Loads of capital ships. Loads of storms. It's the Protoss dream. When you're up on 5 bases, you can go 10 gases. That's pretty much exactly where you want to be as a Protoss. That being said, at this level of play, it's hard to close out games. Zerg players are very good defensively. Even when they have this much Roach Ravager, I mean, that's a little much maybe. But usually once we see the transition towards loads of Spore Crawlers and Spine Crawlers and all of that, yeah, Zerg is going to be able to sit there quite nicely on the edge of creep and not really concern themselves with the Protoss army too much until Protoss is feeling really confident. I mean, that is still a healthy amount of queens. We're once again back up to 11 of them. Okay, so Scarlett doesn't have all of the... Wait, is that all of them? Oh, actually. Ooh. I must have missed that. Okay, so most of the Swarm Host apparently got killed. I was going to say she split up the Swarm Host, but that's not actually what's happening. Base in the top left is not acquired just yet, but 5 base Protoss. As a Zerg player at heart, this makes me a little bit concerned. Look at that, already even. We have the upgrade as well for the Tempest coming up. I've been in this situation as a Zerg player more times than I can count over the last couple of years. And it is not a situation you want to be in. Because now you're effectively like... I mean, she still got a lot of supply. She still has a decent income. She still has a bank as well. But you're effectively playing from behind here as far as upgrades go, right? Only just now is when the Spire comes up. I would love to see continued upgrades here inside of the Cybercore for the Protoss. But you're playing behind on upgrades, and Protoss got the 5th base up, completely unharmed. Which is usually the one thing you really want to avoid. Okay, well this is nice though. That's a good start. Good abductions right there. Couple of free disruptors. Definitely wasn't intended, by the way, even though they were wandering forward a little bit much, because Zoun once again decides to rebuild them right away. I love how active he is so far in this series, cleaning up the creep. Okay, Locust Wave in the top right, but I mean, that's not going to do much. Here we go, though. Abductions? Okay. Not quite going to be able to get abductions, Scarlett, that is. Feedback, obviously, is also very critical. Double Spire is going to finish up here. Actually, I'm a little disappointed. He's not going to continue upgrading there inside of the Cybercore. He's got the resources for it. He really should. Oh, okay. Ooh. High Templar there, getting a bit adventurous. This is a difficult base to break, though, with just a handful of Ravagers. Now, once again, good abductions there. Already, and this is what I mean, right? This looks like an army that can just smash the Zerg in a head-on battle, but Scarlett is just not gonna give it like that, right? She's just gonna maneuver around this force. Now, this is a little bit sloppy, I'm not gonna lie. Yeah. The High Templar have been wandering by themselves for a little bit too much. The thing is, you also want to keep the High Templar in a location where they can still be forward enough so you can actually feed back the Vipers. So if you have them in a wrong spot, it's really tricky. Is this the play? Yeah? 5 Ravagers and 3 Swarm Hosts to kill that base? I was going to say, I don't think that's going to work out particularly well. Slowly, though, the Roach Ravager army is making way for a Hydra Lurker Viper army. And that I do like quite a bit. She's got to go into the double upgrades here as well instead of the Spire. There's finally the +3 air weapons. Okay, nice. Bit later than I would have liked to see it, but... Oh, good feedbacks over there. Scarlett's Vipers are now disabled. One Blinding Cloud, I guess, ends up going down there, but on top of pretty much nothing. Queens, though, are available. They're going to be able to use their transfuses. Most of the Protoss army is still alive, it seems, right? I mean, we didn't really see a whole lot of units getting picked up. I don't know if there's going to be enough just yet here for Zoun to push for the victory, although... I mean, those Colossi are nice. Yeah, Scarlett is going to reinforce this, not with Corruptors just yet because they're so low on upgrades. So she's going to essentially be forced now into Hydralisks, but those Colossi, I mean, 13 kills, 16 kills, 27 kills. They are having a blast. Well, that's one less, I guess. This expansion will end up going down as well. Love the conservative move right here by Zoun, though. Not taking a whole lot of risks. Respecting the strength right there of those Vipers as well. Kills the base in the bottom right. Maybe you can think about getting a 6th base. Would not mind that. Woo, okay, another carrier gets abducted, yeah. We are now up to 5 Stargate production, though. So, look at the supply count right now, and realize that most of that is currently in production. Luckily, there's a lot of static defense available here for Zoun, because otherwise I'm pretty sure this Zerg would be very happy to counterattack. Apparently, right now is the time to go for Corruptors, though. +2 is really needed, especially the Carapace. Okay, there we go. Once these upgrades finish up, this should be a bunch better for Scarlett. So the way it works, right, is that every single one of these carrier interceptor ships essentially gets, an additional damage with every single one of these Cybernetics Core upgrades, right? The attacking upgrades, that is. So 8 interceptor ships per carrier is fantastic. Plus, interceptors actually shoot twice. So every interceptor gets +2 damage from each and every one of those upgrades. So you can imagine why those upgrades are so good. Tempest right now is a follow-up as well. I like it. Zoun hasn't really seen any Corruptors just yet. He hasn't seen any of the Stargate... Or, sorry, any of the, the Zerg Stargates either. He hasn't seen any of the Spires. But I like these a lot, especially if you still have a Oracle or 2 available, right? So you can use Revelation right here on top of, for example, any of the units that you see or any of the Spore Crawlers, and then you can use the Tempest at their maximum range. Since they can shoot away further than they can see, it's really nice to have a couple of these into the mix as well. Just hard, though, because you need the control of these units properly. All of these require separate hotkeys, and it's a bit tricky. Straight into the +1 flyer upgrades as well for the armor. It's pretty neat. Okay, 1 Spore Crawler and a whole lot of Spines. It's gonna help out against Zealot and Dark Templar run-bys. Zoun actually doesn't have that big of a bank. Yeah, it's tricky for him to get another base up. Okay, Disruptors. Nice. Couple free units, not bad at all. Okay, well, I say that. Spinecrawler actually poked it to death over there. Abduction is nice and all, but... yeah, it's difficult for Zoun at this point to commit to fighting any of these, right? But I do feel like at 7 carriers, he can definitely consider just moving forward a little bit more aggressively. That being said, if you lose those units for free, it takes forever to rebuild. I'm impressed that Scarlett is still able to make such a game out of this, though, right? I mean, she's doing a very good job here. This is definitely not looking so bad anymore as it did a couple minutes ago. I think most of us would have already lost. Okay, well, this base in the bottom right-hand corner, yeah, is gonna get picked up. I always try to be objective in these kind of scenarios, but I've just seen this go wrong horribly many, many times. Now, that being said, we do see parasitic bombs right now on top of all of those Protoss air units. Obviously, the Colossi are also affected by it, but yeah, that being said, there's just too much Protoss. Zoun already expanded as well to the top left, and really no way for Scarlett to stick in this game. GG is called, and that means we're going to game 3. Okay, so map 3 in today's best of 3 series is Oxide. Cool. Let us see what ends up going down here. So once again, I like this. I know I've said it many times before over the last couple of months, but I think if you're a Protoss player, this is a fantastic little move, especially if you are a ladder hero, like most people out there. Basically, what you do as a Protoss player in these kind of scenarios is you send the probe even before you build the pylon on the low ground, so this required a different probe, right? But basically, you send the probe before you even send the probe to make the pylon, just to make sure you can block your opponent's expansion. Now, obviously, Zoun knows the exact timing at which he's supposed to send out that probe to get there early enough. If you're not entirely sure, just send the probe right as the game starts. That way, you're basically always going to make it in time. So there we go. It's a small move, but yeah, it's very annoying. It's not the end of the world, but I think it's nice. One advantage for Zerg, I suppose, is that you can start spreading creep from this direction, so... or from this location, rather, so you can spread it in this direction a little bit earlier, a little bit easier. But, yeah. The drones that are going to be made here for a while are all going to have to, like, transfer from the main all the way around towards the third base. Lost mining time over there. Plus, obviously, Zerglings will have to commit to defending both the third base and the main base, because you can't really run them around without link speed, and obviously the queens can't really defend each other either. So it's a more complex dynamic, and I think considering how much I've already talked about this now in this particular game only, it's worth losing a little bit of potential mining time right here on this mining probe, right? This probe could have been mining for like 10 seconds longer and then go in for the scout, but I feel like the damage here has already been done. Okay, so Cybercore comes up here. We'll see if he decides to go for... I'm curious to see if he once again will decide to go for a Stargate opener. Stargate openers are still, yeah, far and away the most common builds. Although I would say over the last month or two, we have seen a little bit more of a transition back towards Twilight and Robo. Although I still think if you're a Protoss player, you should just, you know, play Stargate. Because it's just better. Like, even if builds are theoretically the best, it doesn't necessarily mean... Ooh, I like this. Okay. Bit of a different start. It doesn't necessarily mean that... you know, they're going to be always played in tournaments. Because the other builds are not necessarily bad, even if they are like 95% as good. Anyways, it's going to be a Stalker first, and then also a Cybernetic Score upgrade right away. This is something that Scarlett has seen. Usually this would indicate a Twilight Council or a Robo right away, but you know what? He's already once again up to 150 gas. Yeah, this is a little bit of cheekiness. Normally, if you go for a Stargate opener, you delay the Warp Gate upgrade. And since Zerg can see the little thing spinning and pulsating, right? You know, as a Zerg player, that even if you haven't seen the Stargate, if there's a delay on the Warp Gate research, especially if it's a Stalker first as well, that the odds of your opponent going Twilight or Robo first are very, very big. In this particular game, apparently Zoun is, you know, gonna open with the Warp Gate sooner than he needs it, right? Because this isn't gonna really serve him any practical purpose. He's also decided to go for the Stalker first, and then still goes for the Stargate. A little bit of a mind game, and I like it. Sometimes it can create a bit of an anti-timing, right? So, say for example, normally Oracles show up at the 4-minute mark, right? This one, I mean, it will probably show up a little bit later. It's not going to be significant. But it may be throwing the Zerg player off enough to skip any of the Spore Crawlers. So some small minor mind games. We see these all the time at the pro level, but I think it's worth pointing out because even though a lot of these games kind of look mundane, I guess, if you're a casual viewer to StarCraft, I wouldn't be surprised at all if Scarlett at this point is assuming it's going to be some sort of Twilight-based build. Against Twilight Council, usually you don't really want to get your Laras quickly, right? You want to go maybe 4-minute Roach Warren as well. There's a variety of things. Now, did she see the third base? No, look at this. So the scout timing right here is a little bit different as well. She hasn't seen the third base yet. She's patrolling right now as well, back and forth, just to see any incoming units. There's no queens. Well, there's one queen, I guess, in the main base. All right, well, this is a bit unlucky here for Zoun, right? He obviously doesn't know. Okay, yeah, this is a bit unlucky. If he would have jumped straight into the main base, he probably could have gotten at least like 3-4 drones. You never really know as a Protoss here exactly where those queens are going to be at, so you take a bit of a gamble and you cross your fingers and hope you're going to get it. So, even though I talked about it for a while, we didn't really see a whole lot of use case coming out of that Oracle. But, I mean, we still had like a 4-minute third Nexus. So, did Zoun really pay for this shenanigans? Not really. Follow-up right now is going to be a Twilight Council into the Adept upgrade. So, not a second Stargate, but a Twilight Council instead. Means there's going to be less Void Rays available. You can go for a killer timing attack, though. Sometimes Zerg players against this sort of thing will skip the Roach Warren. I've seen Sarah, for example, skip the Roach Warren and go straight into a Bailing Nest. Yeah, it's a bit of a risk. I mean, Bailings can still deal with Adepts, but it seems like Roaches are a little bit more reliable in that sense. She's even going to make a couple of them as well, which is good. Obviously, though, like this Twilight push, right, is going to be quite a bit later than we normally would see it. By the way, how many queens are we on? She's still making them. Is she going to march the queens 3 games in a row? I think she is. Alrighty. Queen of Blades, huh? Yeah, I think it's an appropriate nickname. She's like, well, if it's a Stargate opener, I guess I march the queens, huh? Seems to be the bread and butter of Scarlett right now. I can't blame her. It's a good build. 48 drones only, though. So this is a build that you do want to get some work done with. No Lair, obviously. No more than 3 gases here. Just Roach, Ravager, Queen. And, well, we just soul stroll them towards the other side. Is there going to be enough for the Protoss player to hold on against this? He's adding on some extra static defense. Nice force fields as well. One of the queens is starting to take a load of damage, but the transfuses are strong. Energy, though, on these sentries has already been drained, right? With those couple of force fields going on since they weren't available until just now. Good micro once again there by Scarlett. She wants to knock down those rocks to create a little bit more room for those queens to get more service area. So those rocks will end up going down here, but it gives a bunch of time now for the very first Immortal to be coming out as well. Void Ray! Woo, just barely will be able to stay alive. I mean, you have Glaved right now, right? Glaved Adepts, and that's nice and all. But against Roaches and Ravagers, I don't think that's that great. Scarlett, though, is reinforcing this with a whole load of Zerglings. And once again, she's starting to pile up a lot of minerals here. I don't think I like that. I really feel like going 4 gas might be a little bit superior here, especially against Glaved Adepts. You may even want to take like 5 gases here, just so you can reinforce this with non-stop Roaches. That being said, Zoun is just going to happily warp in more and more of those Adepts. If he manages to stabilize here, he can capitalize on this by counter-attacking with the Adepts, because there's not really going to be that much available for our Zerg player to defend at home. Wonderful movement here by Zoun, man. I love the fact that he got himself so many of those sentries into the mix as well, constantly going back and forth. He hasn't even used Battery Overcharge yet, has he? Well, if he has, it's always, or it's already once again available. So there's the Battery Overcharge. Bit of a weird timing, but I guess it's to top off a couple of those units. Alright. Oh, I love it. Good force fields there. Ravagers now forced to use their corrosive balls on that location instead. 2 Immortals at this point as well. I almost feel like you could go for maybe even a Prism and start juggling a couple of these units around, especially now with the Queens running dangerously low. That being said, apparently just more Immortals is going to be the name of the game. Weakened Immortal now also backs off as Zoun waits for more of those Warpins. I mean, I'm looking at this. Zoun has 69 probes. That's pretty nice. And he's making more. I'm looking at the Zerg economy right now, and we're only up to 52 drones. Well, 57 right now. 4th base being acquired. But this is a wonderful situation for Zoun to be in, because he hasn't actually taken any eco damage here, right? I mean, if you compare it to the very first game, where we saw a similar push coming out of Scarlett, this is Yeah, not great. Okay. This feels like a bit of a desperation move. Sometimes, obviously, while Protoss is busy microing over here, they will F2A move and use all of the army hotkeys to try and get as many units at the defensive location as possible. So maybe sometimes Zerglings can slip in. Not gonna happen here, though. Stalkers now are being warped in, and I like it. I think Blink now would actually not be a bad idea either for Zoun, or Charge, you know. Colossus is a follow-up. Okay. Yeah, and Scarlett has decided to pull back. What? Oh, couple adepts. Okay, I was gonna say, what's even killing those? Couple adepts apparently have made their way across the map. Don't know where Zoun found those. That is a good amount of damage, though, yeah. Now up to 11 kills while already being economically ahead. Defending a push like this is super hard, by the way. Think it's about time for our Protoss player to do a little bit of spring cleaning once more, huh? We've seen him be quite fond of that. Now, the 4th base will get spotted here by Scarlett. She still has quite a lot of units available, and she did make a couple rounds of drones during all of this, too. 6 additional Overlords are coming up, though. Yeah, while you're pushing like that, it's tricky to macro, right? So you gotta try and get your units in the right place at the right time. Roaches still don't have their speed upgrade. Only just now is when we see the +1 coming up, but I guess the same can be said on the Protoss side of things. I'm just looking at this, and I think that Protoss has got an eco advantage and a tech advantage, right? Maybe not an upgrade advantage, but Colossi are pretty good, right? That's a big tier 3 unit against, well, like a tier 1.5 Zerg army here. Still gotta be careful. Roaches are not bad against Colossi at all. But Roaches without speed are gonna have a hard time. They're gonna have a hard time closing the distance. Okay. Well, we saw how Scarlett clawed her way out of that game in on Jagannatha, right? She did a great job holding on, even if the push wasn't enough to kill the opponent. Maybe she can do something similar over here as well. There's the infestation pit. Considering the amount of drones, no, this is definitely not going to be swarm host play. She's just going to go straight into a hive, probably looking to get a couple of Vipers out. Protoss, though, happily sitting back, right? Zoun playing that defensive style. Very difficult style to play. Beautiful Guardian Shield. But here we go, once again, with the Disruptors. And I like the Disruptors a lot. Double Robo, by the way, as well. So, yeah. It's going to be able to produce some nice high-tier units quite easily. That said, with one of those creep tumors staying alive! Zerg managed to spread the creep once more quite effectively in this direction. Scarlett is going to go for wave 2, apparently. I haven't actually really seen a push like this too often, though. It feels like it's theoretically a good idea. It's just that Protoss has got a much bigger army right now. Oh my god, well, the creep has been spread really nicely. Okay, blinks forward. I was going to say, that's a lot of corrosive vials that are just about to connect on all of those stalkers. Zoun making the executive decision right there to blink forward. Once again, good control there by our Protoss from Korea, man. Really nice job. Oh, blinks forward once more. I love it. Just stands on the creep, by the way, right? Like, is there an observer available? There is. Okay. This time around, we have a ground-based army coming out of our Protoss, though. No Stargate units just yet. Zerg obviously has multiple ways in dealing with a ground-based army. We can think of Lurkers, we can think of Brute Lords. We can think of a variety of units. Imagine, though, like, Zerg manages to get rid of the Disruptors and the Colossi, right? For example, by abducting them. Roach Ravager absolutely murders everything else. It's not that Stalker Sentry Immortal is bad against Roach Ravager, but these are really like the... They're bringing the beef, right? The Colossi and the Disruptors. So... yeah, I think Vipers are not a bad idea. There we go. 5 of them immediately come up. Makes a lot of sense to me. Still no charge, by the way. Charge is very late. Right now, though, look at Zoun. He's just literally, like, he is very active. I don't think I've seen a lot of Protosses be this active when it comes to clearing out creep. I think it's really good. When he's ahead, he seems to want to get more ahead, right? Rather than trying to close out the game. It's dangerous, though, because Zerg obviously is very strong in the late game. If microed correctly, that is. It's a bit of a caveat, huh? Anyways. Zealots will be cleaned up over there. Vipers do have abduction energy, I think. This one does. Man. Yeah, that was frustrating right there. I'm impressed that Scarlett still manages to get such massive banks, though. Right? Look at this. Once again, she's maxed out and she's got herself a very healthy eco. I guess that's the advantage of Roach Ravager. Roach Ravager-based armies just aren't that expensive. Do you think it's worth going double Evo chambers in that case, though? Yeah. Finally, right now is when we see a second Evo, but I feel like it could have maybe been a little bit quicker. Hydra then also quite late. Zerg, like, the problem here is, if this game goes on for another 10 minutes, sure, she's gonna have everything, right? But right now, there's no Hydras, there's no Lurkers, there's no static defense. And yeah, she's got a bank, yeah, she's maxed out, but she doesn't have very good upgrades, and she's got a low-tier army, right? Whereas if you compare this to Zoun right now, he's gonna go Fleet Beacon, he's gonna go Sonic Storm, he's gonna go +1 flyer upgrades already. I'm liking this situation for him a lot more, despite the fact that his bank is not nearly as impressive. 3 additional Stargates as well. Like, he's investing into the future, okay? He's thinking ahead, okay? He's thinking of the children. Where Scarlett is just looking at this, she's like, no, all that matters is this army right here, right now. Well, those abductions help, though. Those abductions are really nice. That being said, okay, well, never mind. Only one Ravager, I think, over there. And another one of the High Templar gets abducted. Okay. Okay, well, Disruptor! Nicely done. Okay. Ha! It seems like Zoun every once in a while just has, like, High Templar or, like, Disruptors on a separate hotkey group and he just loses them for free. Not entirely sure. Like, this is clearly one army on one control group, and then Disruptors... I don't know, man. Maybe you just need to F2A move in some of those circumstances, because it seems like a better idea. We just saw, like, 4 or 5 High Templar, and then, like, I don't know, a similar amount of Disruptors getting picked off for essentially free. Maybe it's okay, though. Look at that. Once again, we have the +1 flyer upgrade, right? As I've pointed out already, it's a pretty neat little upgrade. There's no Corruptors or anything like that yet, not even a Spire for our Zerg. So I'm still liking this position for the Protoss quite a bit, but yeah, it's shakier, if that makes any sense. Hydra Lurker Viper, though. It's proven many times to be a very effective unit composition. Maybe she can consider taking that base over there in just a little bit as well. Yeah, without like a whole lot of carriers out. I mean, there's 4 of them right now. But without carriers, I mean, Hydra Lurker Viper, I don't mind it at all. She's going to be able to abduct those units. Grooved Spines is going to... Or sorry, not Grooved Spines. What's it called again? I don't know. Doesn't matter. Nice abduction over there as well. Seismic Spines. There it is. Grooved Spines is the Hydra ranged one. Anyways, she's going to be able to get some additional range right here on these Lurkers. Now, this is... Okay. Nice blink forward right there by Zoun. Manages to grab, I think, 1 Lurker and then a Viper as well, which is really neat. Good feedbacks. Okay, that's what we want to see coming out of our Protoss player. Well, a lot of Roach Ravager was ready to go for a counter-attack. Zoun just blinked on top of all of the units that were meant for the base defense. They weren't burrowed, they weren't paid attention to. And just like that. Even though Scarlett still has a big bank, she's stuck on Roach Ravager with a bunch of Hydra spawning. It's definitely not going to be enough to deal with Zoun's force over here. So I hope you enjoyed watching this series. If you did, hit that like button down below. And if you want to see more, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button so you get notified as soon as future videos go live. It is kind of cool though, right? That Scarlett decided to go for a Queen March in literally every single one of these games. Anyways, for now, thanks for watching. Have an awesome day. Don't forget to smile. And I'll see you once again in the next one.